What was the incident in your high school? Oh my god, there's so many. Too many. My elementary and middle schools, located on the same campus, were in really, really bad neighborhoods. By the time I was done with middle school, I had seen some pretty rough stuff. There was a suspicious package dropped off at my elementary school the year after I graduated from it. The entire elementary school, 600 kids, was evacuated and then crammed into the gym of the middle school next door, which I attended. Turns out the package was not a bomb, though I don't think the public ever found out what was really inside. School was placed on heightened alert my 5th grade year. Not a full lockdown, but students weren't allowed to leave the building. Naturally, this happened right at dismissal, so the head principals were rushing everybody back in as quickly as they could. I was at the front door, which made it even more terrifying. Turns out there was a teenager on campus with a gun unloaded. After that, my school was placed on heightened alert dozens of times, but it was never super dramatic since they normally didn't tell the kids. The news never found out, but the middle school gym teacher once held soccer practice and separated the black and the white kids and then made them play each other. Me and a few other students were actually the ones who reported it, and he got into big trouble. But he was never fired, and he's still there. In fact, he's trying to become a vice principal right now. High school next door made national news for having 3 guns on campus in the span of 2 months. Now, every high school in the district has metal detectors. You might have seen this one on CNN, as it only happened a few months ago. A special ed teacher at my middle school dragged an autistic kid down the hallway, causing him to have bruises on his arms and legs. It was insane because I actually know the teacher who did it, and it was very bizarre to watch the news clip because I had been in that hallway dozens of times. Not at my elementary school, but at a friend's. A teacher was arrested for having sexual relations with a student at the elementary school. Not at a high school, at an elementary school. Final incident. At my elementary school, different from any of the ones previously mentioned, the principal's husband was arrested after stealing several bourbon barrels. Was a massive heist. Principal never got into any trouble, but most parents are pretty sure she likely knew about the 4 bourbon barrels that were just sitting in her basement. Hope it doesn't get buried. I was a teacher, and a very good kid just got pushed to his limit by a bully teacher. Had been bullied by this guy for a couple of years, never did find out what was up with that. So, bully teacher says something to the kid. He runs out to his car, grabs a crowbar, and comes in smashing all the glass he encountered. It was safety glass, but lots of shards anyway. Tries to go after the teacher to kill him. He got trapped in the library. The classroom was located in a small classroom off the library, and I was right next door keeping kids in their seats and unable to go to the bathroom for about 90 minutes. Cops began arriving from all directions since we were right off 2 state highways. State cops, canine cops, etc. Kid destroyed all the beautiful 1940s oak shelving, teacher's desk, anything that would break. His mom shows up and disarms him. Kid gets slammed on a stretcher and hauled off to the nearby AFB, where his dad worked. Not sure exactly what all happened there, but he got a lifetime ban from being at the high school and a serious restraining order from ever contacting or being near the bully teacher. I liked the kid. Never had one tiny bit of trouble with him. Saw him a couple months later and asked him to please tell me if he was ever mad at me. He laughed. Kid was diagnosed with an intermittent explosive disorder. Went on to be a good adult. He just kind of lost it that day. I did not know that the kid was being bullied until shit hit the fan. Then kids told me the whole story. There was nothing I could do except offer words of support to his girlfriend and then be nice to him when I saw him again. As a victim of lifetime bullying, not school, but family, I know the damage it can cause. As far as bullies go, I called them out in my classroom whenever I knew what was going on. But if you know anything about bullies, they tend to do these things at times and places that teachers don't see. We can't stop what we don't witness. Sadly, many and most victims do not report until the situation has reached critical mass. A girl in her final year got pregnant and was hiding it from her parents. She was 18 at the time, though. She went to the counselor, a qualified clinical psychologist, who was helping her through it. The counselor walked her through all of her options and did what she was supposed to do. The girl, I think possibly in denial, carried the baby to quite far along, but then wanted out. She was also starving herself. Long story short, I also can't remember all the exact details. She apparently went to a dodgy clinic where she convinced them she was much earlier in the pregnancy, guessing they did no tests. And they gave her abortion pills or something like that. Like I said, can't remember the exact deets, so don't crucify me. She started profusely bleeding in class the next day and was rushed to the hospital. The baby survived for about 4 hours and then passed away. Obviously, by this point, her parents were there. Upon questioning, she named our school counselor and said that she had forced her to have an abortion. This whole case went to court. Our poor school counselor could not say anything or defend herself publicly until the case was done. We had reporters outside our school gates for ages. It all came out at the end that the girl had lied and the counselor was completely innocent and had just done what she was supposed to do and had offered the girl all the information and advice for her to make an informed decision. I was amazed at how professional the counselor was and how she did everything by the book when it came to speaking about her client. Anyway, that was crazy. I answered this question a while back, so I'll just copy it here. Had a teacher get involved with several girls in high school. He pretty much had one on each grade. At first it was just rumors. Until then, shit hit the fan, and the principal confirmed what was going on when the guy was fired. He was married and had a small child and was leaving his family for a 15-year-old girl. Months after he got fired, the girl went missing and she was found dead several days later with signs of violence. A day later, his body was found in another city about 150 miles away. Someone put a knife through his neck. No one ever knew what really happened, but theories are abundant. Oh, this has gotten quite some attention. Was sleeping, guys. Sorry. I'm Hispanic. Honor killings are not really a thing in my country, but the father getting them killed was a theory floated around by people that knew her. Mostly us high schoolers. Might have been the wife that orchestrated it, but no evidence supports that theory. If I remember correctly, by what the police could gather, after the girl went missing, the teacher went on the run, even asked a friend of his for help. Friend went to jail for helping him out before the girl was even found, and by then, he was by himself. Girl was probably dead already at that point. This was mid-2000s, so I am not sure I can find articles online about it, and if I do, they are in Spanish. If you still want it, I'll private message you it. During one of the semi-formal dances of the year, not prom, some school official thought it would be a great idea to screen the underwear choices of the girls attending for morality purposes, because thongs were of the devil. Their great plan for implementation was to literally pull girls aside from the ticket line and just lift up their skirts. Right there. No curtain, no other room, nothing. Just right in front of the gym doors, while everybody else was in line able to see. This was a New York Times quote. Said one parent called her to report that a teacher had pulled a girl's top to see if she was wearing a bra. The baseball team gained notoriety after raping freshman entrants to their team with a broomstick during hazing. And then there was the lore. Why can't seniors leave campus for lunch? Seniors with cars used to be able to leave to get fast food. This was discontinued because some jackasses went to the local daycare center up the hill, like a 15-minute walk away, and started flashing their genitals at the children. And the internet denizens are correct. This is the infamous RBHS, where we have valedictorians at over 5.0 GPAs, nationally ranked sports ball teams, and egregious sexual scandals because there's something strange in the water of the San Diego suburbs. So every school has their weird kid. We're gonna call my school's weird kid T. Everyone knew him and knew something was off. He was an angry kid, but otherwise functional, was in band, normal classes, but was really weird. Some examples: got mad and broke a window in a practice room, was found butt naked in the room the color guard girls kept their things, threatened people, etc. But he never actually hurt anyone. He was actually very kind to me. Well, our senior year, he said he had a big surprise for the last day of classes. Half the school didn't show up, honestly expecting him to bring a gun or something. Lo and behold, T shows up to the school in a dress and a wig and makeup with a new name. Totally normal, sweet girl now. Waitress, nice, you'd never know. TLDR, we thought the weird kid was gonna kill us, but instead he came to the school as a girl. A few comments about transphobia. T knows I posted this and actually read it before posting. She got a laugh from it and commented on how much happier of a person she is now. So this happened yesterday, and it was pretty wild for a Canadian school. At the end of the day, there was a police car at the front of the school. Someone said they saw a kid get arrested when they went to the washroom. At the end of the day, a cop and the principal were standing at both back passenger windows, talking to someone inside. We all just assumed that someone was getting arrested for selling drugs or something. The next day, my homeroom teacher told us between third and fourth period, the 2 afternoon periods in Canada, a former student who was about 20 years old blended in with the students and snuck into the school hallways. He wandered through the hallways, stealing from unlocked lockers, and actually stole about 10 laptops from teachers' classrooms somehow. They ended up catching him at the Tim Hortons down the road. Not sure what's gonna happen to him, but someone said his mom was his getaway vehicle a couple blocks down the road. He just had to stop at Timmy's first. Only in Canada do people have to stop for a coffee and a donut mid-robbery. Oh man. One time, this kid I was friends with brought this hot sauce called Da Bomb, 1.5 million Scoville units, hotter than hell, to high school and let a bunch of kids try it during lunch. I mean, at least 30 kids. Some kids really started freaking out because that shit is ridiculously hot. Like, you're supposed to add 1 or 2 drops to a big batch of chili to make it spicy. Some were trying to show off and took a swig of it and ended up vomiting everywhere from the heat and panic. Multiple kids had to go to the nurse and be sent home because they way overdid it. Although, I think most just really had no idea what a Scoville unit was, or made hot sauce that was that ridiculously hot. It was chaos. I tried it as well, a dime-sized amount, and I couldn't concentrate on anything but chugging milk. And I'm really good with spicy foods. Finally, the principal came on the intercom and said, "Whoever brought the hot sauce, please, just stop." My friend got into some pretty big trouble for that one. At my high school, seniors had to do a senior project. Can be anything really, just plan it out and follow through. A very popular and well-liked senior made an end-of-the-day announcement that tomorrow morning he'd be in the student parking lot working on it and needs as many other folks there as possible. The next day he drives into the student parking lot, set up a tripod and a camera. A large crowd gathered around just about 30 minutes before the first bell. He hit record. Thanks everyone for showing. Then he reached into his car, pulled out a handgun, and killed himself before anyone could react. No one knows why. He was a great guy with a bright future. Never know what struggles others are going through. I think about it frequently and take that into consideration to try and be nice to others with random acts of kindness. One of the students ditched high school one day and rode his dirt bike really fast in front of the school, popping a wheelie while the school was still in session. He wiped out and slid and hit his head on a light pole and died right in front of the school across the street. Really sad and super crazy. This was in Bakersfield, California. It's crazy how many other places this has happened. Also, no helmet was involved that I'm aware of. A few people have mentioned the light pole. It can also be called a lamp post or light pole. Sheesh. The pole received all kinds of attention after. People writing notes on it, people leaving flowers and lighters and so on. It was really weird. I wouldn't want to be remembered by what killed me, but I think a lot of students didn't have anywhere else to mourn him. I didn't transfer in until after it happened, but I had a classmate who was in the room when it happened. Our 9th grade year, 1989 through 1990, one of the guys in the theater or drama class had been threatening suicide and to hurt friends and classmates. She and all her friends went to the teachers and principal, but were told they could do nothing because he had no history and therefore he had to do something first. He did. Walked in mid-class, took the entire room, including my friend and her friends who had reported his threats, hostage. Brandished the gun around repeatedly, then shot one of their mutual friends who was trying to talk him down. Kid lost his ear, but not his life, thankfully. She was still giving legal depositions 2 years later when I met her, which is how I heard the story. When I was in high school, our Hicktown school had a gang called the Cobras who would spray paint cobras on school property, write it on desks, in the bathrooms, basically everywhere. It was dumb and many of the students had a good idea who was a part of this gang, but the teachers didn't. The principal would call down groups for photos in the yearbook, siblings, sports teams, drama club, etc. on overhead announcements, and one day they called down the Cobras for a school photo for the yearbook to try and figure out who they were. They caught almost half the students who were defacing school property because they showed up for the group photo. No, they didn't get a photo in the yearbook. Multiple people have shown up from my high school. Yes, our mascot was the Huskies. It was the last day for the senior class. There were only 2 significant pranks that day. The principal's office was filled with balloons and glitter, and the main hallway entrance was saran wrapped. About an hour before the day ended, the principal came over the loudspeaker and said that anyone caught participating in a prank would not walk at the graduation ceremony. About a minute after he said this, the fire alarm went off. A guy who was near the principal said that he got angry and said out loud, "Someone's not walking," before storming off. An entire wing of the school was hazy and smoke was pouring out of a classroom. Turns out the science teacher was doing a laser experiment for his class and created too much smoke with a smoke machine. This was back in the 70s. In 7th grade, some girl just started groping the boys. If you got close to her, she would immediately grab your groin or butt, whichever was closer. Sometimes she would grab both at the same time. Of course, the boys started groping her back, and it turned into a common thing to do, and she let it happen. The boys then started groping other girls. Some went along with it and thought it was funny. Others got upset and told teachers and the principal. The principal called a big assembly and read the riot act. The girl that started it all acted shocked and outraged, but the adults knew she was the one that started the whole thing. Someone called in a bomb threat to my school and elementary school. Instead of evacuating both buildings, we were in lockdown for 3 hours and they condensed all of us in the middle school. We later evacuated to the high school, only like 300 feet away, and were stuck there for hours because our parents couldn't get to us. All our phones were taken because they didn't want us giving information. So there were like 700 white moms in Suburbans simultaneously having a heart attack trying to get to the school. We learned later they called this in to almost every school in the area. There was a robbery at a Bank of America while the cops were preoccupied. A football player with the last name Parham got punished for some shit and was no longer allowed to walk the stage for graduation. One day, a friend of his pulled up in a truck outside of the cafeteria during lunch, slammed on the brakes, jumped out, and proceeded to sprint inside. He streaked through half the cafeteria with a Spider-Man mask on and "Free Parham" painted on his bare ass. Staff tried to grab him and stop him, and despite him literally slipping on a piece of food and falling, he escaped valiantly, as any hero should. Eventually, Parham was once allowed to walk the stage, although I'm sure the stunt wasn't the only reason for it. Kid in the year above decided mid-ICT lesson that he needed to drop the kids off. Teacher wouldn't let him go, so he decided to move to the back of the classroom and proceed to shit in an empty Pringles can. After dropping the log, he went round offering out Pringles to people. One kid stuck his hand in blind and got a handful of shit. The kid was unsurprisingly pissed off and threw the handful of shit at the kid who had the can. There was a whole fight and shit was thrown over the whole room. It all had to be industrially cleaned, and even after that, it still stank in there. It was grim. 2 guys in my year decided to bring about 50 cabbages into school and start a cabbage fight in the science corridor. All hell broke loose and cabbage leaves everywhere. About 100 students joined in. You most certainly can have 100 students and 50 cabbages in a cabbage fight. Check the cabbage fight rule book. Jokes. It wasn't a case where 100 students were already there and waiting. The 2 guys just randomly started the cabbage fight at break time, and the students who were already in the corridor began to join in. Cabbages started to break. Other students heard the commotion and then joined in, picking up lumps of cabbage, so on and so forth. Which? Guy takes a massive shit off the top floor of a massive stairwell. Same stairwell. Someone drops a pressurized can of soda, cracking open a teacher's skull. Someone brought in a decommissioned World War I authentic stick grenade. The entire school was evacuated onto one yard for 4 hours while the bomb squad were on their way. Our school's counselor, who took his kids out of lessons to help with low self-esteem, committed suicide. That one's kinda sad, to be honest. Drama teacher got arrested for convincing 2 14-year-old students to have sex while he watched. And he still works there. And a music teacher got sacked for coming in drunk. Twice. I love lower class Britain. Some unknown guy killed a professor in his office and apparently hid out in the drywall space in the medical school building for a few days. The police ended up having to clear out that building like it's a war zone, and they never caught the killer. They think it was either 1, a crazy student, 2, a bit of office politics that gone murderous as the professor was just about to get the plum gig in the department, 3, an escaped crazy person from the local mental hospital, which was, for some reason, on the grounds of the university right behind the physics building. 4, some combination thereof. High School 1. Jostens, they make rings and yearbooks, was on campus to sell us our class rings. They had a Chicago Bears Super Bowl ring along with other famous rings they made. Somebody stole the Super Bowl ring. We were all called into an assembly to find the ring. The Jostens guy was close to tears. The ring was found in the hallway after the assembly was let out. High School 2. A couple girls got in a fight at the bus stop. One of them cut the other up with a box cutter, and then tossed battery acid on her. Freshmen wrestling around in the back of a bus, one got a finger up the butt through clothes. In the paper for months, coaches got fired, kids got suspended, and records. One of the managers on the bus had gone home and told her grandma someone was raped. So now there are cameras on every bus. Yet there was zero coverage or charges of the hazing at a football camp the summer previous at the Crosstown High School. That was just 4 seniors stripping a freshman and lathering him in icy hot, including up his butt. But they were just warned. A guy went into the locker room during gym class and shit into another guy's backpack. Since so many people asked, this happened at a German school in 2014 or 2015. The guy didn't face any consequences, although almost everyone knew who did it. Our principal pretty much was like, yeah, let's not talk about this. The story also spread like a wildfire in our town, and I had friends from different schools text me about it before I even came home that day.